What's going on, vloggers, bloggers, and everyday toilet brewers? It's time for another episode of Toilet Vlog Brewing. We are finally back with the last and final episode of our Vikings Blood Mead with the backsweetening. I know last video I was all like, oh, I'm gonna do it now. You know, that was stupid because we sparkle loaded it and everything and it looks great. It's crap, I don't have it. Hold on, let me. Alright, I just went and grabbed it from my room, so that's why it's kind of moving around a little bit, but you can actually see that we sparkle it and there's all the sediment at the bottom, and you can see that it's pretty see-through. I know the cardboard I got in right now is kind of dirty because it's been sitting for over a month now, but there are a couple updates and other things like that. Here are those cubes, those, what do you call it, Hungarian oak cubes. I decided to soak them in bourbon. And it's looking pretty hardcore in this thing. I talked to a couple of the guys in the brew club, and yeah, I got them in a nice soak. They've been soaking probably for about 4 days, and I actually used Woodford Reserve. I got one of those little guys when I went to go pick up a new hose and some yeast and stuff like that. But I let those soak for about 4 days, and I was thinking I'm just going to dump the whole entire thing in there. The other part of our ingredients is our vanilla bean. Got 2 of them in there. And then for our back sweetening, the same honey we used last time, I'm going to bochet about 3 pounds of that. And I'm not going to record that because it's kind of like a process that you have to constantly monitor. And you burn the honey, there's no going back, and that sucks. But yeah, we've got all of our equipment. I'm not going to be using all this. Ready to go. Got our already cleaned, sanitized cardboard. We got our bucket and a jar over there. And I'll tell you what that jar is about later because that's a completely different episode. But we will be saving a little bit of the mead to do something special with. But yeah, I'm going to get to the bochetting part of the honey so we can boil it, get it nice and caramelized, and then I can let it sit and chill and everything like that, because mead, or not mead, but honey happens to be kind of like it bubbles up like fucking crazy. So if you don't like constantly monitor it, you know. But we'll do a tasting before and after, like kind of like on the fly while we're doing everything. And so yeah, just to remember to, if you do this kind of stuff, to keep everything sanitized. You see all these bubbles right here? That's all Starzan. And then I got my big bottle of Starzan, so everything, it doesn't matter just because this stuff is done, something could still get in there and make it taste like garbage. So I've had a couple of them that have tasted great, and then all of a sudden, like a week later, it's sour and nasty and gross. But alright, we'll be back with the second part. Got the honey in the pot. We used about 3 pounds out of our 5-gallon thing, and got it in here. I got it on medium heat, and then once it starts to get kind of moving around and stuff like that, that's when I'm going to bring up the heat a little bit. Get it to a boil, constantly stirring it. I usually like to use just, one of these guys, whisk, to just keep going and get it going, and then put a little piece of like paper towel or something like that to test the color. So having something like a white background, and I explained all this in the first video, so you can actually get a better color contrast. But you really only want to bring this stuff up to a boil and then let it cook for about 20 minutes, because that's all it really takes. There's all that stuff about like, oh, you gotta boil it for like 15 hours. No, that's terrible. But either way, we'll be back. So I wanted to show you guys what it looks like when you start to actually boil honey. I got it to a boil, and now I'm trying to bring it down a little bit, but now this stuff will pop and burn the holy fuck out of you. So try to stir constantly, and once you do get it up to a boil, try to bring it down to like more like a simmer. And then, yeah, like I said, just stir constantly. So see how it's kind of calming down a little bit? And then I've got my paper right here, because figures out I don't have any paper towels, so, Alright, so we got our honey bochetted, and now you can see a huge difference. I kind of like swirl it around. Yeah, you can see how dark it got. So what I'm going to do is then I'm going to rack this off into there, and then we're going to back sweeten it. I boiled about 3 pounds, maybe 4. I mean, you lose some when you're bochetting, so I purposely went over. Oh, I clicked the wrong button. There we go. I purposely did more, so, you know, when it comes down, it will be like more like 2 or 3 pounds than more than 4. But I'm looking to back sweeten with about 2. And I almost forgot, but I got this guy cleaned up just in case. But we're going to be doing it into the bucket. The reason why I'm doing it into the bucket is so I have more control. I know a lot of people frown upon that because they think, you know, open air, oxidation, stuff like that, which, you know, technically I guess I'm kind of worried about too, but, you know, at this point I don't really have a choice. A lot of people do this thing where they use this plug that like pushes in, they use like CO2 to push it through, and I don't got that kind of money or time right now. So, but either way, I'm going to get this racked over, and, excuse me, I'll put a little bit of it in a glass. And then I'll also put some of it in our jar, and we'll talk about that later, like I said earlier. And we'll see how it looks. So we got this guy moving. He's going into the bucket. You can actually see how clear it looks now. I put some of it in the jar, and now if you really want to see how clear it looks, like, yeah, you can see me. It's kind of hard. There we go. But yeah, it's definitely got that, like, you can see why they call it Vikings blood. See how there's kind of like a brown hue to it and stuff like that? So, gives it that kind of like blood characteristic. So, I got my gigantic whisk that I'm going to take that. And I'm actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, this stuff likes to get like characteristically like really, it's still pretty thin. So, we'll wait for this to fill all the way up. And then what I'll do is I'll dump some in there, kind of whisk it up, and then we'll see how it tastes. Another thing I wanted to do real quick, actually, while we're here, is go ahead and get a little taste for ourselves, because I tried it a little while back, and it was pretty sour. So I'm gonna set my phone down. Yeah, I know I'm recording all this stuff on my phone. If you can't hear me, sorry. Let's get a little bit. So, yeah, now look how clear that is. You can actually see right through it. So yeah, it's still definitely got the mead funk. It's kind of chilled out a little bit. Oh yeah, it's chilled out a lot. When it first, oh yeah, it's definitely super tart cherry. When I first did it, it was like so much tart cherry that it was just insane. But the back sweetening is actually gonna take away a lot of that bitterness, so that's why I'm not worried about, you know, putting any kind of like citrus acid in it or malic acid to, you know, give it that pop or anything like that. So not worried about any of that stuff. So, but either way, I think this is gonna come out really good. We're gonna back sweeten first, like I said, and then after that we'll do the vanilla bean, we'll do the oat chips, and then we will let this guy sit. What I usually like to do is let it sit for like a month, you know? And if there's any like sediment or something like that, every now and then, I usually, instead of putting like an airlock on it like this, I've got one where it's just basically like the cork part, and I'll just fucking cork it. And every now and then I'll come through and pop it, because sometimes you gotta degas it a little bit, which is another thing we did not do with this. You know, usually wine and meads, you've got one of these guys, and you use it to like, you connect it to your drill, and then you use it to like, to degas your wines and stuff like that. But I didn't do any of that shit with this one, because I really didn't want to, you know? I didn't want to whip more oxygen into it, and maybe causing it to oxidize, which, I mean, it's already got that little brown hue, but that's just from the cherry juice itself. Remember, we used a bunch of organic cherry juice. Other than that, yeah, it's almost done. Got our honey ready and everything, and I'll come back with what it looks like stirring it in and how it tastes from there compared to what this was, and everything else. All right, so we got it completely racked over. You can see all that sediment. Like if I turn this, yeah, that was all the stuff that the sparkaloid got rid of. And that's all that, like, you know, like either cherry flesh or like the rest of the yeast and stuff like that. It's all in the bucket. So I'm gonna try and like set my phone in a way you guys can see me do this. Maybe. Oh, no, I don't think that's gonna work. Well, here we go. So we got the bucket right here. Here's our Boucher honey, which I'm just gonna dump right in there. Now, the weird thing about bochet honey is that, yeah, it loses volume, but then it also, like, you get sticky. You get sticky like candy sticky. So, that's why if you do use it, like, and you start doing it, or you do use bochet honey, like, literally, use it as fast as you can. Well, it's still a little warm, too, because it will, like, thicken, like I said, like hard candy. So I've got the honey in there. Like I said, this is probably about 2.5 pounds, almost 3, maybe less. I didn't really weigh anything out. Sorry! You can definitely tell it's real thick at the bottom. Yeah. See, look, it like crystallized right when I did that. Probably the shock from it being cold. So I'm gonna mix this and bring it back with the rest. Right, so I got all that crystallization to break down and everything like that. Now, you can see it's not as clear as it was, but that will actually start to chill out. Like once we like age it and let it sit for a little while, it will start to like, you know, more mend and everything. That's the whole entire aging process with mead. And you know, you usually like to let it sit for like 6 months as a minimum. You know, 3 is good, you know, to let all those flavors meld and everything. But yeah, it still smells like mead. You can smell the bochet honey. It's still got a little bit of an alcohol punch too, so. Oh yeah, it's not like bitter sour anymore. Yeah, you can still smell the cherry and everything like that. It's still pretty young, so. It's gonna take a little while for all this to like, you know, mellow out and everything. Like I said, look, I used 5 pounds, 5-pound jug of honey, which all that went into bochetting, and there's, so even with that, we didn't really back sweeten like a whole bunch. All right, so our second thing we're gonna do, third or fourth, whatever, is that we're gonna take this and then we're gonna rack it into that. Sorry, I just did the dishes. But yeah, and then after we rack it in that, that's when we're at all like bourbon and vanilla and stuff like that. And we'll pretty much put the lock on it and then just let it sit. And we'll go from there. And then we'll probably come back in a couple of months and tell you how it tastes, tell you how it looks. Probably it will clear up really well. I mean, most of the time it usually does. It takes kind of like a month for it to do that too. And every time I'm always like drinking a beer and shit like that when I do this. So like, but it's crazy and burping like crazy in every video. Either way, I will be back and I'll show you the racking process and putting the cubes in and the vanilla bean, which I'm going to cut the vanilla bean, scrape it, dump that in there, and the pods in there as well too, so I can get all those flavors. All right, so it took like 15 minutes to get it all stirred up because figures out it was like coagulating down here. Remember how it kind of like crystallized once we put it in there? But I've got it all mixed up, finally got it all broken down, and we're gonna take another little pull off of it. Now that it's racking off over here, and all of the honey got dissolved this time. So what I usually do is I pinch this. We'll stick it back in here real quick. So yeah, like I said, it's still not super clear, but like I said, that will kind of chill out. Oh yeah, you can definitely smell the honey in it a lot more. It still smells a lot like mead though. Oh yeah, a lot better. It was still pretty like, you know, from the tart cherry, but now it's definitely got a lot of the honeyness to it, and you can definitely tell that it's bochet as well too. You get those that toffee, that caramel, everything like that. I think this one came out pretty good. All right, well, I'm gonna get the vanilla ready, or the vanilla bean ready, and the oat chunks, and we'll dump those in and lock this guy off and call it a day. We're gonna take our vanilla bean and pull this out, These guys are kind of hard. Didn't think they would get that hard. I thought they would be more gooey. Well, fuck it, I get it. I guess we'll just break it up. Because, I mean, yeah, look. They were probably fresh when I originally got them, but oops. Oh, yeah. It's definitely, oh my god, it kind of smells like my pipe tobacco. Like right on it. I guess we'll just we'll have to see if it rehydrates in there, which hopefully it should. Alright, we got it racked over, and you can see this is a 6-gallon one. We're a little bit under the 5 from the last time, but I did take a little bit, so. Anyways, alright. So we got our big, what do you call this? Funnel? Funnel. And I have been touching it, so I'm going to go ahead and spray it with a little bit of sanitizer. There's nothing wrong with using some of the sanitizer. And put it in here. So you can see it. Here's our vanilla. That's going to go right in. And then, hold on, let me set this down for a second. And then we got our bourbon oak chips. Oh, I had a feeling that was going to happen. Alright. Oh! Alright, well, I'm going to get some tongs and kind of put each one in there. Because I didn't think it would end up like this. So basically, the oak chips got a little stuck. 2 of them just kind of stuck to each other, and then so here, put these in. Maybe one by one. Oh, see, a little stuck. Don't worry. That knife is clean and sanitized, so. See, this is what I want. Some 2 of them got. Oh, well, that one just went on the floor, so obviously that is not going to go in there. You can definitely smell the bourbon off of those chips, off of these cubes. So, but yeah, guys, that's about it. We got it back sweetened. We got the cubes in there. We got this nice clean carboy, and we will come back and show you what it looks like in the end. I do not know where my cork went, so I'm going to sanitize the hell out of this guy. Stick this guy right back right here. Pop this off. Brew towel! And then squirt some of this in here so it fills up. Keeping a nice lock on it just in case there's any kind of like gases coming out and everything like that. And yeah, we will see you on the next one.